Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Tuesday, November the 11th. And welcome to our commentary. Well, first of all, happy Veterans Day to all of you who have served in the U.S. Army. Of course, lots and millions of people, many of them who've passed away, of course, and some current ones who have served. We thank you for your service. And I understand, I saw something in the news that there was a fast food chain today that was giving away some free lunches or something for veterans. So I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see that. I'm very happy to see that. We need more of that. We need more of that. We need more of a recognition for the work that these veterans did. Some of them, of course, were in war. Others were not, but it doesn't matter. Everybody does their part. It's something that has many different roles, and I'm just very happy that we recognize them today. And if you have a chance and there's a veteran in your family, hey, say Happy Veterans Day. I think they're going to appreciate that. They're going to appreciate, particularly the older you get. Okay, the older you get, you have these men in their 60s and 70s and 80s, and you say Happy Veterans Day. You can see their reaction. They always react in a very positive way. So happy Veterans Day. I don't care how old you are. You could be a young Marine in Korea, or you can be a veteran from Korea, or maybe even a veteran from World War II. We may still have some of them around. Not many, but man, please say happy Veterans Day if you have an opportunity today. I think it's something we all need to do. And if you can do something small or even a small thing for a veteran, particularly an older one, who maybe needs maybe cut his grass, the yard, cut the yard or do some work around the house for him or whatever. If you could do something like that, I think that would be a perfect way to show your respect and appreciation for veterans who have worn the uniform and served the country over time. Well, let's talk a little bit about. I have a post at the American Thinker today. I just want to briefly direct you to it. As you may have heard, Governor Newsom was in Texas. Governor Newsom of California was in Texas, and he was here. Everybody knows he's running for president. I mean, this is nothing new. He's running for president, and he was here, obviously, promoting his campaign, and he's connecting with people, which is fine. That's what presidential candidates do. So it's okay. He can do it. Everybody does it. But, while he was here and there were lines of people to see him, back in California, there's very good possibility that they've got some gas lines coming up because they're having a problem out there with refineries and distribution. And there's a good chance in this article that I wrote, and the article comes from California. The link of my article comes from California. There's a very good chance that they could be paying a lot of money for a gallon, like $7 or $8 for a gallon of gasoline in California. And there may be shortages, which for some of us, that's what my article is about. For some of us who remember 1979, I'm sure you remember 1979, 1980. I'm sure you remember sitting in your car waiting for the gas station to open, or maybe remember sometimes they gave you like 10 gallons and that's all you could get, 10 gallons. I mean, it was crazy time. It was a crazy time back then, but that's what happens when you have shortages. That's what happens. People have to line up for products. So anyway, apparently that's going to happen in California. So the whole point of my article was that somebody should go up to Governor Newsom and ask him about that. Also, all of those people who were cheering him here in Texas should spend a week. Just go to California for a week and see how they live out there. Go to LA and see how that city is run. Look at the overall situation in that state. The cost of gasoline is a good place to start. Cost of housing. This train that he's supposed to be, I'm not sure he started the train, but he's been working on it. And look at that train. It was supposed to go, I thought it was supposed to go from LA to San Francisco. And that was years ago that they started doing this. And it's still a mess. So anyway, Governor Newsom, you need to take care of your state before you go around telling the country what a great job you're going to do for the country. Because I don't think anybody wants their country to look like California. Not a good thing. And I don't say that in any mean way, because look, I think California has so much potential. When you think of the beautiful state, I mean, just the beautiful weather, just a beautiful state, and that they should be going through all these problems. It's just a lack of leadership. It's a terrible leadership that they've had in California for so long. And Governor Newsom is doing everything he can to avoid that. He doesn't want anybody to remember him, or he doesn't want anybody to even talk about the fact that he's the governor of California. That's not what he's going to be running on. He's going to be running on Trump as a threat to democracy and that kind of stuff, except that Trump's not going to be on the ticket in 2028. So I'm not, who's he going to run against? Vance? Anyway, Governor Newsom. Check out my article today over at the American Thinker. Well, the shutdown, is going through a different stage right now. I guess they're going to be voting on Wednesday to put everything back, or to put everything back, have President Trump sign the new proposal and get the money flowing again. And that's a good thing. There should have never been a shutdown. I have been always opposed to shutdowns. I think they're bad for the country, not just politically for the parties. It's bad for the country. You shouldn't have shutdowns. It's inconceivable to me that we have a shutdown. I don't care who does it. I've been critical of Republicans when they did it. So should never happen. In this case, obviously, the reason that the Democrat strategy failed is because they didn't really understand how unrealistic their position was going to be. What they were trying to do is basically negotiate something that was not negotiable. One of the first things you learn when you're doing a negotiation is you better understand up front what's negotiable and what isn't. Because what isn't negotiable, you're not going to get most of the time. And what the Democrats were trying to do really through this negotiation, what they were hoping to do was to basically tear up the big, beautiful bill. Whether we're talking about the cuts to Medicaid that were made to make the system more efficient, or, the money spent on NPR or PBS or whatever, that was never going to come back. That's never going to change. There's no way that that's going to change. So that was a completely unrealistic expectation on the part of the Democrats. They can shut down the government for another 40 days. And that was never going to change. And they knew that. They had to know that, because they were hearing that from the majority leader, from the Speaker of the House, and the president. Everybody was saying the same thing. Anyway, so they decided to test it. It failed. And now, of course, comes the day after, because they've been telling Democrats, their base, for the last 40 days that there's no way we accept this. Well, now they're going to have to sit down and negotiate, which, by the way, I thought that would have been a much smarter strategy. Had they actually sat down 40 days ago and been negotiating in the last 40 days, they certainly would be a lot further ahead. So now they're going to have to rush into a bunch of things because some of the Obamacare subsidies expire before the end of the year, and there's other things that expire. So anyway, it's going to be difficult for them. But what we've also seen, I think, exposed because of all of this, is these incredible divisions within the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is not a party anymore. It is really two parties in one. And I don't know how much longer they can continue, frankly, to be together. I don't know how much longer they can continue. Now, it was my expectation that a more centrist Democrat Party would come out of this, and that all these extreme positions like Mamdani in New York and so on would be sort of, thrown out the door. But that apparently is not happening, because that Mamdani wing of the party, that's where the energy is, and that's where the money is. So we'll see how it goes. But the Democrat Party right now, it's in a deep crisis, and they can blame Trump all they want. They can write all the nasty notes they want about Trump, but that's not going to fix their problem, because they don't have a Trump problem. They have a Democrat problem. So let's see how it all comes out. Well, if you live in the Dallas area or North Texas, I'm sure you're familiar with the Dallas Mavericks, our NBA team. Well, today they fired their general manager. Now, that happens a lot in sports, so that's not a big deal. But what happened here is that a year or so ago, the Dallas Mavericks traded their most popular player, Luka Doncic. They traded him to the Lakers. Now, I'm not opposed to trading your best player if you get something good back. You know, the Rangers did it a few years ago. The Cowboys did it back in 1989. The Cowboys traded Herschel Walker, who was their best player. And they got back a bunch of players and draft choices. And it was that trade, that Herschel Walker trade to the Vikings, that basically set the foundation for the Super Bowl teams that came a few years later, plus other draft choices, of course, like Aikman and Michael Irvin and all of that. But when you make a trade and you get a lot of stuff back, then it makes sense. But when you trade your best player and you don't really get a lot back, and the player you got back has a terrible injury history, I mean, the fans are angry. So they all took it out on the general manager, which is obviously he's the face of the trade. I don't think he was the one who, my own personal opinion is that I think this trade, he was forced to make this trade by somebody above. I think that's where it came from. But anyway, he's the face of the trade. He's the general manager. So he's been traded. He's been fired, I should say. And we'll see what happens. But the Mavericks have a terrible public relations problem after that Luka trade. When you take your best young player, extremely popular player, and he just took you to the NBA Finals. They didn't win, but he took you to the NBA Finals. And then you trade him and you don't get anything back. That's a good way to get angry. I mean, that's a good way to get a lot of angry fans. And that's what we've had. I mean, for the last year or so, this has been a very angry fan base. So I don't know that firing the general manager is going to change anything, but maybe they change. I don't know. Maybe they make some better trades or whatever. But this team has a terrible PR problem right now with the fans, and that's a shame. That's a shame because I think over the years, the Mavericks have always done a great job of, promoting themselves with the fans. They've always done a great job in that respect. At least we're a very well-run team who was always fan conscious, always fan friendly, but not this year. There are lots of angry fans. And when you realize how much money you have to pay to go to an NBA game, and then your team trades away your favorite player and gets nothing back, wow. That's not a good way to make fans, but that is a good way to make enemies. So we wish the general manager, Nico Harrison, wish him the best. And the Mavericks need to take care of the fans, and they need to take care of their PR problem that they have with the fans right now. I was going to say have a good trade. I'm thinking about the Mavericks. Have a good day, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas. We'll be chatting with our friend Bill Katz from New York Wednesday, and we'll get the latest from that election, not so much the election, but the aftermath of the election, how people are reacting up there about Mandani. We'll talk a little bit, too, about the state of the party and how Bill, who has been around for a while, has seen quite a bit, what he thinks about the state of the Democrat Party. So have a good day, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.